Hey everyone, this is Steve Gonzer, physical therapist and chief analyst at runsmartonline.com. And the last couple of videos I did talked about plantar fasciitis, I talked about Achilles tendonitis, and this next video I want to talk about is something called, that is crucial for those things and a couple other injuries. And so if you're someone who has pain in the morning, and I'm talking pain like plantar fasciitis or Achilles pain, where you get up, you have to hobble a couple steps and it loosens up and gets going. Or if you're someone who sits for a while and gets up and starts walking and you're like, ooh, and you're hobbling and then it loosens up as you get going, I have something that I want to share with you, and it's all about passive positioning. So when we sleep, let's take sleeping for example, because the key injuries that go through this are Achilles tendonitis, plantar fasciitis, and anterior hip tightness, or like a hip flexor tendonitis. And when they sit, or when you're sleeping, your foot goes to a plantar flex position. This is the neutral position of the foot and ankle. When all the muscles are shut off, it hangs out like this. Now imagine if you had an Achilles coming up. This would put the Achilles on stretch. This would cause it to kind of go on slack. So as you're sleeping throughout the night, the same thing happens to your plantar fascia that comes off of the tip of your heel and all the way up to your big toe. When you're sleeping, that all shortens up. You have injured tissue in here. Imagine going in and scraping it and pissing it off and getting it all aggravated. And then you sleep, and the body comes in and tries to repair it. But because you're in a shortened position, the body's going to bog it down and start to repair it in a short position. So that when you get out of bed, get up, walk, your foot's in this position, and you go to bring your shin to neutral, and that tissue has to lengthen back out, it just rips and it gets really sore, and you're hobbling and you're sore, and all the different stuff that comes along with it. So there's an easy fix for a lot of these things. There's a couple things, and it's really just avoiding that passive position, that passive pointing down or the passive flexion in your hip. So two things, Strasbourg sock or something that kind of night splint. It's a great way to keep yourself positioned at a neutral position. You don't need to crank on the toes. You just need to keep your foot at a nice 90-degree neutral position. Generally, people can keep a passive splint on at night, like the Strasbourg sock, for a couple hours. You're just trying to keep it on as long as possible at about 90. What this will do is that when your body comes in and heals this all up, it won't heal it into a short position. It'll keep the tissue length so that when you get up, it's not just shredding and opening and everything back up. Imagine just ripping the Band-Aid off and having to do that day after day, and you wonder why nothing's healing. Now the other thing that I want to talk about is the sitting, because if you sit all day at work, the same thing happens. You sit and you let your foot just kind of passively plantar flex underneath your desk. You get up to walk and you have to rip everything as you start walking again. So instead of kicking your feet out and having it out to the front, what I recommend is sliding your foot and your heel behind you. So imagine this is underneath your chair. You would get your foot underneath you and keep your heel on the ground. What this will do is it'll keep the passive positions through the arch and through the Achilles, and it'll prevent it from adaptively shortening and tightening as you sit there. The same thing goes for the anterior hip, because when you're sitting, think about when you sit, the front of your hip closes down. That hip flexor tightens up because you're not moving. If you get out of that position and walk around a little bit, if you prevent that passive shortening of your toe pointing down and really avoiding those positions, it's a great way to let things heal a lot faster rather than just ripping the Band-Aid off every single morning.